All right, welcome in everybody. Hope you all are having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shoemake, and this is the Shoemake Take. Welcome in. This is the 2025 NFL Preview Series, and today we got to talk about the Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the men in black and gold. And wow, this is an interesting team to talk about. Very interesting team. They've had a very eventful offseason for their standards. And yeah, quite frankly, kind of a spoiler, I don't think they're going anywhere, to be honest with you. I think this team's going to be exactly the same. But let's go into it and break it all down. Before we jump into it, though, if you're new to this series and you want to know how it works, here is how it works. If you want to jump into the Steelers discussion, the timestamp is in the playhead in the video along with the video description. So if you want to go ahead, knock yourself out. But for those of you that don't know how this works, here is how the series will work. We start with recapping last season, quickly just stating their record and what happened. And then we'll jump into what they did in the offseason, who they brought in free agency, who they lost, who they drafted in this past draft. And then we'll also talk about any notable coaching changes, potentially stuff like that. And then we'll also conclude with, is this team improved, yes or no? Then we will jump into what I think this team is going to look like. Are they going to be good, bad, mid? We'll talk about some strengths. We'll talk about some weaknesses. Pretty much just telling you guys how I feel about the team. And then after that, we'll jump into a schedule analysis. We'll break it all down, looking if it's easy, is it tough, look at some key matchups that I think are important. And then we'll conclude with looking at the division. Are they going to make the playoffs? And then officially, I'll give you my 2025 record prediction. And then we'll wrap a bow on the whole episode, pretty much just looking at storylines and things that I will be looking for specifically to be following the Steelers in 2025. So let's begin talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, where 2024 was not a good year for them, and not in the way that you're expecting. The thing is, last year they finished 10-7. They made the playoffs, and this team, they looked pretty good after Russell Wilson took over, after Justin Fields started the first 6 games, and it looked like a really good decision. But then by the last quarter of the season, this team fell off a ledge, and once again, they limped into the postseason, where they proceeded to get their butts kicked in the wild card round, in which, this loss was so bad that the fans are very, very much feeling fatigued at the lack of change or direction from this team. And this offseason, they have set out and said, this is going to be different. We're going to try and be better this year. And, well, it doesn't get much better than that by adding quarterback Aaron Rodgers, trading for DK Metcalf. Then they traded for Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey, brought in corner Darius Slay. They brought in a lot of good veterans to help elevate this team, along with bringing guys like Mason Rudolph back as backup. They built up the depth in their running back room with Kenneth Gainwell and Trey Sermon, brought in veteran Robert Woods, and add a couple veterans on defense, including safety Juan Thornhill, who should be starting next to Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is gone. They traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick. Looking at all these losses on the list, there's none more impactful than Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, there's a couple other guys on there that are pretty important. Obviously, they lost Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. They lost Najee Harris. They also lost George Pickens, who was not on this list. I forgot to add it now that I'm looking at it. But that's a pretty big trade. And then they lost up tackle Dan Moore. They lost James Daniels at guard. Larry Ogunjobi, Dante Jackson, starters for them are gone. But none of them hurt worse than Minkah Fitzpatrick. Trading him away for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. The more I think about it, I don't know how good of a trade that is. I don't really think any of these teams really won the trade, if I'm being honest with you. But losing Minkah Fitzpatrick sucks. It really sucks. And when you're getting Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith back, I don't know. That's it. I don't know. I don't think Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith can replace all pro level production from Minkah Fitzpatrick, in my opinion. But their free agency, again, was eventful for them. They don't usually make a lot of notable moves like this. And it goes to show that they understand what this year means. They understand that they need to be better. They understand that what this team has not been good enough. And staying in the same place and not moving forward is not good enough. And the Steelers have set out to go solve that problem. So I can respect that. I can appreciate that. But is it going to amount to anything? I'm not really sure. And the thing is, too, TJ Watt is looking for a new contract. They're trying to pay him, but the negotiations aren't going very well. They're not moving very much at all. And for the Steelers, if you traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick, now you got to pay TJ Watt. I would assume that you got rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick so you could have the money to pay TJ Watt. And so the fact that it's not really getting done is kind of worrying. We're a couple weeks away from training camp, so that's got to get done pretty soon. But I expect the Steelers to ultimately get the deal done. There's no way that they trade away TJ Watt or they try and play this out and drag this out even longer than it already has been. No, they're trading. They're getting him. They're gonna sign him to a big extension, give him what he wants. There's no way. I swear to God, if this video comes out and a day later TJ Watt gets traded, I'm gonna lose my mind. But I don't think that happens. So their offseason, pretty eventful for their standard again. But how do I feel about them? Wait, I apologize. I skipped over my own script. I apologize. We got to talk about their draftees, who they drafted. And let's just jump into it. This Steelers draft is very, very much a Steelers draft. You look at 2 offensive players. The rest of them are defensive players. They drafted Derek Harmon in the first round, defensive tackle out of Oregon. Like the pick. I like the fit, especially because Cameron Hayward is aging, so he could be gone anytime now. So they draft his replacement, have him play alongside him for a couple years. Really good move right there. And then in the 3rd round, they drafted Iowa running back Caleb Johnson, another powerful, hard physical runner from this draft class that really fits what the Steelers are trying to do. They try to be physical, they try to punch you in the mouth, and Caleb Johnson can run physical and punch you in the mouth. Then they drafted edge rusher Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State, obviously the guy that knocked the football out of Quinn Ewers' hands in the college football playoff and ran it back all the way for a touchdown. Fantastic play. I thought they got good value where they picked him, so gotta like that. Then they drafted nose tackle Yahya Black, solid depth piece for now. Quarterback Will Howard in the 6th round out of Ohio State, so he reunites with his teammate Jack Sawyer. Sure, fine. I don't know if Will Howard is your answer at quarterback. I think you need to get someone more talented, in my opinion, but at least for now, he's a rookie, he's young, he does have talent, and he'll add depth and be a good backup behind Aaron Rodgers, I think. Or no, technically Mason Rudolph will be the backup. Will Howard will probably be the 3rd. But then again, still a young quarterback, I guess. And then they drafted linebacker Carson Bruner and corner Dante Kent. Developmental guys that I think could have some good upside for them. But this draft, like I said, is very much Pittsburgh Steelers. It emanates their culture. It emanates what they're about. And there's not much more I can say about that. It's very much a Steelers draft. So is this team improved? Kind of. It's hard for me to give you a definitive answer if I think the Steelers are improved or not, because I can see the argument for both sides. I'm kind of stuck in the middle, because while I believe the Steelers kind of lost the trading away Minkah Fitzpatrick for Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey, at the same time, is the sum total greater, or is a total greater than the sum of their parts? It's going to be hard to tell, but I can understand why they brought him in. Minkah Fitzpatrick, you get rid of him, but you bring in Jalen Ramsey, who's won a Super Bowl, has multiple years of going deep into the playoffs. And you talk about Jonnu Smith, a guy that he has not won a Super Bowl himself, but he was part of that Titans team that went to the 2019 AFC Championship. So he knows what it's like to have a deep playoff run and perform in the playoffs. So I get the idea. They're trying to bring in veterans that not just have plenty of experience, but they also have a lot of playoff experience. Darius Slay just won a Super Bowl in Philly. Going back to this list here, Jalen Ramsey, I already mentioned. DK Metcalf, probably the least playoff experience. I think he's only made the playoffs one time in his entire time in Seattle, maybe twice, if I'm remembering that correctly. I may not be. I apologize. But they're adding a lot of playoff experience to this team that should theoretically elevate them to a higher position than losing in the wild card round. So I get what they're trying to do, and again, it's hard. It's hard to really say if they're improved or not, because there's a lot of factors that can't be quantified. It's still really early. We don't know what exactly they're going to do. It's hard. It's really hard right now. It feels very close to where they were before. I wouldn't say they're better, but I will tell you this. Their ceiling is higher. Their ceiling is higher. Is their floor the same? Yes. I don't think they're going to win less than 9 games. That hasn't changed. But now I would say they probably have the capacity to win maybe 11 games, maybe even 12 if a bunch of pieces fall into place. But I think this team has too many issues for that to be the case. But then again, this team does feel like, in a weird way, boom or bust because of the position that they're in. Not because I think they're going to be bad or have the potential to be bad, but because they're either going to go past the wild card round and finally improve in that department, or they're going to be in the same spot as before. And so that's where I'm leaning. Personally, I don't really think that what the team added is enough to overcome the other issues that they have on this roster and really elevate them and push them over where they've been these past 6-7 years. And that sucks because there is a lot to like about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, bringing in Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, that's one of their biggest strengths, considering what the Steelers have had to go through the past couple of years. Give me Aaron Rodgers. The year that he had last year in 2024, if you're looking at it statistically, was just as good, about exactly the same as Big Ben's last year in Pittsburgh. And, if you go and think about that, they got blown out in that wild card game too against Kansas City. So I don't know, that might be a bad omen. I might be putting some bad voodoo on the Steelers right now. But Aaron Rodgers is most definitely an improvement over what they've had the last couple of years. So at least they have some stability there, at the least. But I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have another good year. And this is his last year too. He confirmed it. So the Steelers better go past a wild card round, because if they do not, that's going to suck for Aaron Rodgers going out like that. But tight end is another strength. Obviously, Pat Freiermuth is good. Jonnu Smith, career year, coming off of a Pro Bowl season. Having those two guys lined up is great. Darnell Washington as a third is fantastic. Big, physical, more of a blocker. I thought he could develop as a receiver. Really hasn't developed as a receiver as much as I would hope. But he is still a good third tight end on their depth chart. And then corner is another strong spot. Joey Porter Jr., former first-round pick. I'm excited about him. Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey as your three starting corners is a really good trio of corners. And I was right. They are trying Jalen Ramsey at free safety. He's gonna take some snaps there, and that's something I heard people talking about. I thought I agreed with the idea, and so to see them actually doing that, it's pretty cool. That is pretty cool indeed, trying to utilize him and utilize his strengths a little bit better as he continues to age. And then defensive line is another strength of this team. Obviously, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith as your two starting edge rushers, Cameron Hayward, and then Derek Harmon. If your worst starter on your defensive line is Derek Harmon, who a lot of people would argue was the best defensive tackle in this year's draft class, your defensive line's pretty good. Defensive line pretty good in Pittsburgh. There's no doubting that. But the issues that this roster has, I don't think they did good enough job to adequately address them. Number one being wide receiver. You traded for DK Metcalf, fantastic. Him and George Pickens should go insane. But then you trade away George Pickens for nothing, and wow, whoop-de-doo, you just got rid of him, and you could have had a really good wide receiver duo, and now you only got one guy. The next two receivers, Calvin Austin, some people are liking him. I like him. But am I expecting him to take a big role, take a big step forward? I'm not sure about that. We'll have to see. But other than that, it's Robert Woods, who's washed. He's a wide receiver 4 at best now. And then Roman Wilson, coming off of a pretty major injury. I think it was a 3rd-round pick last year. Came out of Michigan. But outside of that, this wide receiver core has almost nothing. I do not like this wide receiver core whatsoever. DK Metcalf is good. Calvin Austin is good. And then there's nothing else after that. There's nothing else. And so it's frustrating because the Steelers, they lost Mike Williams. They traded for him and he did nothing. They lost George Pickens, traded him away. They lost Van Jefferson. So, I mean, they did not do a good enough job replacing the people that they lost. And it could have been so much better, but they had to trade away George Pickens, which is so unfortunate. Another one is the running back position for me. Jaylen Warren's good. He's good, but is he good enough to be a true running back 1? We'll have to see. I'm unsure about that right now. And then your number 2 is Caleb Johnson, who is a rookie. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. But the thing is, for me, for rookies, it's hard for me to factor them into the equation of if a team's or a position is going to be strong or not, because we don't know. They're an unknown. So it's hard for me to kind of project that compared to NFL players who have been in the league for at least a couple years to 3 years, where they have enough experience in the league where, okay, I have a pretty firm idea of if this player is going to step up or not, right? So rookies, it's kind of a crapshoot. It's hard because they're unknown. But for right now, with me not being so sure about Jalen Warren being a true running back 1, and then Caleb Johnson, I'm unsure about that. Right now, that running back room is not as good as Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, in my opinion. So right now, I think it's going to be a weak part of this team. Number 3 is the offensive line. Offensive line, the Steelers have not had really good offensive line play in a couple years now, and I'm not excited about them. Broderick Jones looks like a bust right now. I'm hoping that he can turn that around. He's got a lot of physical talent, but he has not panned out at all. Jordan Morgan. Wait, did they draft? No, they drafted Troy Fotanu. I'm sorry. They drafted Troy Fotanu last year. He's going to be taking the snaps at left tackle now. We'll have to see. I like him. He's talented, big, strong. And then they didn't do a good job of replacing James Daniels, and the rest of their interior is okay. Like, this offensive line over the past couple of years has been below average. They have not lived up to expectations, and their young players that they've tried to develop aren't developing well. So I find it kind of hard to buy into the offensive line being much better this year. And so for Aaron Rodgers' sake, that doesn't bode well for him, because he is a statue now. He's in his early 40s. I don't know how much more hits he can take before his second Achilles snaps or something like that. At this point, we have no idea. Aaron Rodgers could slow down at any point. This entire thing could collapse realistically. I don't think that's going to happen, but it is a possibility to acknowledge, and not doing enough to invest in this offensive line, not really excited about that. And then the last one is safety. I said earlier that Jalen Ramsey is going to take snaps at safety, which is good, but whoever the person slated to start is obviously a backup. And then Juan Thornhill next to him should be fine, I guess. He's okay. Juan Thornhill's an average starter. So without Minkah Fitzpatrick there and seeing that big hole right there, I can't not say that the safety is a weakness. It is a weakness. If they still had Minkah Fitzpatrick, it wouldn't even be an issue for me. I would even go far as to say it's a strength, because him and Juan Thornhill would be a pretty good duo. But without Minkah Fitzpatrick, it's hard for me to say that this safety group is strong. It's not very strong anymore, because you lost your all-pro. So those 4 positions are weaknesses for me. And the fact that I didn't think they did enough to kind of... Oh my God, I ran into a wall. It's not enough to justify it being better. They didn't do a good enough job addressing these problems. So that's why I kind of feel like this team is going to be good, but why I feel like they're going to be the same, because these issues, they did not do a good enough job of improving upon them. I cannot justify this team being much better, if any better, than what they were last year. And so, jumping into their schedule, looking at it right now, the first 4 games can pose a challenge, but they are winnable. Week 1 is at the Jets. The Steelers are going to win that game. Aaron Rodgers going back to MetLife to go face his former team. And then you're hosting the Seahawks. I think they're going to be an improved football team this year. They're going to be tough. Mike McDonald's defense, I expect to be really good this year. So it'll be a dogfight for sure. But I expect this offense for Seattle to be a little bit slow coming out the gate. So maybe you pull off a win right there. And then the Patriots, I would much rather face Mike Vrabel earlier in the year than by the end of the year. I think they win that game. And then week 4 against the Vikings, that is going to be a tough game. But that J.J. McCarthy, that's going to be his 4th career start by that point. I think the Steelers can get enough pressure on him to make him a little bit uncomfortable, and the Steelers could probably eke out a win. So I'm looking here like these first 4 games, all of them are winnable. Probably they go 3-1 if I had to guess. Not sure which game they would lose, but this first 4 game stretch is very much manageable for them. Then you got a bye week in week 5, and then this next 4 game stretch is a little bit better. You host the Browns. I think you win that game. Go to Cincinnati. That's a winnable football game. Green Bay, they should give a fight. Do they win that game? I'm not sure. It's going to be close. And then they host the Colts. I have the Steelers beating the Colts. And then go to LA to face the Chargers. That's going to be a tough one of the tougher games on their schedule. Then you face the Bengals again. I don't know if the Steelers beat the Bengals twice this year. Maybe they do. It's a possibility. But usually these 2 teams split, so I have them splitting again more than likely. Then you face Chicago. Chicago is going to be an interesting team this year to watch, because obviously their roster is talented. They got a new head coach. That's exciting. So will this offense by week 12 for Chicago look like it should? Will it be as good as advertised? We'll have to see. I think that this offense by this point for Chicago is going to be pretty good. I think they're going to be humming. nothing spectacular, but I think they're going to be doing pretty good by this point, and their defense should still continue to be good. This is going to be a really close game for Pittsburgh, I think. And then you go on the road to Buffalo. That's going to be tough. I think Buffalo wins that game. And then you host Baltimore. Maybe you win that one and split with them. Very much doable. They did last year. And then Miami. That's a win, I think. Then you go to Detroit. That's going to be tough. I don't know if they win that. Then you go to the Browns and then host Baltimore. The big, there's, how do I explain this? The key matchups for me, obviously the first 4 games are important, and then the last 5 games are going to be important from week 14 to week 18, because the Steelers, they have been known to choke and struggle late in the season, and this is what leads to them limping into the playoffs every single year. And so you're going to be going up against the Chargers, Bengals, Bears, and Bills. You got to go at least 2-2 in that stretch. And then going here into the last 5 games, you got to win at least 3. You got to go at least 3-2, maybe 4-1 if you can beat the Lions. I don't know if they sweep Baltimore this year. I don't think they do. So they got to finish this season strong. They got to finish the second half of the season strong and not limp into the playoffs like they did last year. And if they struggle again against these teams and they go into the playoffs not looking hot, I don't think they're going to win a playoff game. I just don't buy into that. So the start of the year and the end of the year is very, very important for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because that is where their season really is going to be defined by how they start and how they finish. So divisional-wise, I have the Steelers finishing second in the division, only behind now in this point, the Baltimore Ravens. I think it's surprised them almost nobody that I had the Baltimore Ravens winning the division. I think they're by far the best team in the division, probably the best team in the entire conference. So that's not a surprise, but I do have the Steelers making the playoffs again this year. I do have them going back. I think they have enough to get them there. The key is, will they actually be able to make it past the wild card hump? But record-wise, here you go. I have them going 10-7 again. I wasn't joking when I said this Steelers team is going to be the same. I wasn't joking. This team did not do enough to me to justify them being any better. They made some really notable moves this offseason, but where their roster had issues, they did not do a good enough job of addressing them. And quite frankly, they made it worse because they traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick. So now safety, I think, is going to be an issue. They lost Najee Harris, so running back is a little bit worse right now. Although I would say they have the upside to get back to where it was before, if not better. But for right now, I mean, they have some more issues on their roster now than they did last year, even with trading for all the players that they traded for and who they all brought in. So with that being said, I feel like it all cancels it out. I feel like 10-7 is a very fair record to give for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But let's conclude with some storylines to look at, because there's a bunch here as my script falls over that are pretty important. Number one, I think, is, can Aaron Rodgers elevate this team? Aaron Rodgers has been good. He has not been bad. He hasn't really fallen off at all in terms of his play on the field. But now, with Aaron Rodgers having the best football team he's had in 2 years, the Jets were good, but their coaching was awful. That was the big issue with the Jets. But now, they have the good coaching. They have a winning culture. They have good players. Now, this is a year where Aaron Rodgers needs to play well, get this team into the playoffs, and can he elevate them to get past that wild card hump? The thing is, he has all the playoff experience. He has the years of experience in the NFL. He has the coaching. He has the culture. He has the roster. If Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers get into the playoffs, they had better win a playoff game, because if they don't, that is going to be very, very bad for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the next one, which piggybacks off Aaron Rodgers, is the offensive line. The offensive line has to at least be somewhat average in order for the rest of this offense to work. They don't have the weapons to circumvent having a bad offensive line. Aaron Rodgers cannot afford to have a bad offensive line. And offensive lines, if they are bad, they ruin everything on an offense. So if they are bad, this offense does not have the firepower to overcome it. They don't have the coaching with Arthur Smith to overcome it, I don't think. This guy loves to run the ball, and when it comes time to throw the ball in a must-throw situation, historically, even with Tennessee, when their offense was fantastic under him, they did not do a good enough job when it really mattered most at certain points. So this offensive line better be good. A lot of the season's success is riding on them. The third one is, how do they manage without Minkah Fitzpatrick? I already said that Jalen Ramsey's moving to safety a little bit. He's going to take some snaps there. That'll help them out. But I don't think Jalen Ramsey's replacing the all-pro production that Minkah Fitzpatrick had. So how they manage, I think that it's going to be a little bit of a problem to start the year. I think that they're going to target that area of the field. They're going to target deep shots. They're going to try and test those safeties. They're going to try and test Jalen Ramsey. So while I think it's going to be a weakness, unless Jalen Ramsey pops off, I don't know how much better it's going to get. I don't think it's going to be as good. Whoever plays at safety is going to be better than Minkah Fitzpatrick. But I feel like they still have enough players on their defense to be able to at least circumvent it for a year and get by. I don't think it's going to be a big liability, but I think the Steelers will have enough to get by. It's just going to be a little bit of an issue to start the year, I think, where it's really going to be a problem. And then the last one, or second to last one, is, can they find a way to finish this last part of their season strong? Again, this is probably the most important part of their entire season because they can't seem to finally do that. They can't seem to finish the season strong. So if they can do that and go into the playoffs strong, I think they win. I think they will finally win a playoff game. But if they do not, I can't see them winning. And that leads to our last storyline. If they do truly finish the same, they go 10-7, make the wild card round, lose in the wild card round, and don't really look that competitive, does Mike Tomlin get fired? Because while some people, it's pretty fair to assume, yeah, Mike Tomlin's job is safe. But one thing is for certain, an angry fan base and fans not showing up to games, that may sway this team's decision to fire Mike Tomlin, because it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. I don't know if Mike Tomlin gets fired, but I do think that if the Steelers finish how they finished last year in the exact same spot, I think the odds of it are higher than what people may be expecting. I would not be surprised if they fired Mike Tomlin if that is what happens with their season. It would not surprise me. It would still suck for the Steelers and for Steelers fans, because one thing's for certain, you can be upset because the team hasn't gone anywhere. You could be like the Browns. You could be the Titans. You could be, I don't know, you could be the Bears. You could be another horrible football team, and you haven't sniffed the playoffs barely at all in forever. So it could always be worse. I mean, the grass is not always greener on the other side. But for the Steelers, they better hope that they win a playoff game, because I don't want to have to think about Mike Tomlin actually getting fired from the Steelers. And also, not to mention that they have 43 players on the last years of their contract, 6 of them being starters. So next year, there's going to be a very high turnaround, or very high turnover for the Steelers roster. And so if they lose, that might influence Mike Tomlin getting fired, saying, hey, we're going to lose a bunch of players. Let's go get ourselves a quarterback. Maybe stick with Will Howard next year. Maybe finish with a high draft pick. Let's actually begin to fix this roster and go in a different direction. So that's something I'm going to be looking for. That's something that's going to be interesting to follow once playoff time rolls around. But for now, I have the Steelers finishing 10-7. I have them finishing with the same record, going to the playoffs. But do they actually win a playoff game? That is yet to be seen. But that is going to do it for me today, guys, on this discussion. I hope you guys have enjoyed. And if you made it this far, please consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button, as it helps the channel out tremendously. And also, we broke 100 subscribers, so thank you to each and every one of you, and counting. So we're trying to hit 500 before the end of the 2025 regular season. So if you guys could hit those 2 buttons, smash them down, do whatever any YouTuber tells you to do, it'd be greatly appreciated. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think Pittsburgh goes 10-7? Do you think they're better? Do you think they're worse? How do you think how they're going to fare without Minkah Fitzpatrick? And if they finish the exact same way last year, do you think Mike Tomlin gets fired? I want to hear everything you guys have to say. And lastly, make sure you guys share this video and also follow me on social media, whether TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Yep, Instagram as well. So go follow me there, share this video on social media, spread the word out about the channel, and get more people flooded in here to go check me out. But that is going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed. And as always, I will see you all next time.